This is a very commonly seen graphic that shows this 100th meridian and its meaning. If you are having trouble finding a pattern in this map, you should see an ophthalmologist very soon. This is not particularly subtle. Here you can see that the rainfall is much lighter on the western side of the 100th meridian. So the lighter the area, the less the annual precipitation. Then that gets us to an interesting matter of people in a present moment attempting to interpret the world around them and predict outcomes. These are the two first explorers of the Front Range region, the Colorado, what became Colorado, Zebulon Pike and Stephen Long. And when they came to that region, they were really quite knocked over by the aridity, the openness of the landscape, the scarcity of trees, just the general dryness. Of course, in order to get there, they had to travel when the plains were sufficiently unmodified. That's not a technical term, the soil geologists don't use that, but they had to wait for the plains to become travelable, so they could not get to the Front Range region until it was midsummer, mid or late summer. So they thought it was very dry. They saw stream channels, and for whatever reason, their minds weren't stirred by that. They didn't think, well, if there's stream beds with very little water or no water, does that mean that there might be something that happens when we're not here? So they didn't really get the notion that there might be more water in the late spring and early summer. But anyways, it looked very, very dry to them. So they were really of one mind and thinking, this won't work. The term the Great American Desert came out of that perception, the notion that this region of the Front Range of Colorado was simply too dry to support conventional American settlement. Well, that was their judgment. Now, you'd think that would make them sad. If you were a federal agent and you have come to assess the resources of an unsettled land, you would think that you would feel under obligation to say, I went there and it was great, and there will be wonderful opportunities. So it is a little bit amusing to realize that both Zebulon Pike and Stephen Long came to a different mood or a different tone or a different emotion. To them, what they saw in the dryness of that region was good news, and they reported it with cheer. Now, I hope you're weirded out by that now, thinking what came over them? Worn down by a long trip, becoming a little witless there. On the contrary, what they saw, and remember, this is the expeditions are, well, 1806 with Pike and Stephen Long, the 1810s. It's a new nation. It's an experiment. It's a democratic republic. Nobody knows how big a democratic republic can be before it is too big, before you have overstretched the idea of a democratic republic by just too much geographic space. So both Pike and Long and Edwin James, who wrote for the Long expedition, thought they had found good news in this limitation. Our citizens, so prone to rambling, Pike said, will now be kept within boundaries. They will have to stay closer to the Mississippi River and the Missouri River. They will have to stay out of this territory, and thus our nation would be constrained to a manageable size and not overextended. So the good news of that, and then interestingly, another piece of good news, they both thought, this land, because white Americans won't want it, offers a solution to the Indian dilemma. Because the whites don't want it, this can be where the Indians can be removed and kept there. So both of them reported back with some cheer, but they reported back with some certainty that this land would not be a place where Americans could settle. They don't look like the best prophets on that count. But prophecy is hard, and we'll get back at the very end to evaluating that prophecy.